Hello, welcome to Pirkei Avos with Rabeinu Yonah. We're on chapter 5, Mishnah 7. Shiva dvarim b'golem v'shiva b'chacham. There are 7 attributes of a golem and 7 attributes of a wise person. A golem is somebody who's uncultivated. We'll soon see that a golem refers to a person that isn't totally advanced in his wisdom. So we're going to learn the 7 attributes of each. What are the 7 attributes of a wise person? A wise person doesn't speak in front of someone who's wiser than him and older than him. A wise person doesn't interrupt his friend. A wise person doesn't rush to answer. He takes his time when he answers a question. He asks questions relevant to the point pertaining, and he answers correctly. He answers the first things first, and the last thing last. And something that he hasn't heard, or he doesn't know, he says, I don't know, I haven't heard this. He admits when he's wrong. And the opposite of all these 7 things is what a golem does. So let's see Rabeinu Yonah. Shiva dvarim b'golem, 7 things by a golem. Kol davar she'ein tzuraso nigmeres nikra golem. Any object or thing that is not complete, its image is not complete, is called a golem. That's the word in Hebrew. K'moshe nemer, as it says, Gal mi ra'u einecha. Your eyes saw my unformed limbs. Kodem shenigmar atzuras haivarim. He was called a golem before the image of the limbs were formed. Kacha yodea ma shemalamden oso, v'lo yeda laso svar midaito nikra golem. So a golem is also called somebody who can understand what he's being taught, but he's not able to understand things on his own through his own logic. So his wisdom isn't complete. And you don't recognize his wisdom. And the golem doesn't have these 7 things which we will explain. Some of the things we are going to mention of these 7 attributes, they are good character traits to have, and some of them demonstrate a person's wisdom. And that's what Rabeinu Sadya said, of blessed memory. Again, a chacham is somebody who can make logical conclusions and understanding on his own. A wise person doesn't speak in front of someone who's wiser and older than him. A wise person is quiet, and he listens because he wants to learn. That's how he becomes wise. But a golem doesn't do that. A fool, or a golem, someone whose wisdom is not complete, he doesn't want to understand. He just wants to show everyone what he knows. A fool wants to show everyone what he knows, but a wise person wants to keep quiet because he wants to learn more. Like we mentioned above, we said earlier, he quotes Mishnah Perek 3, Mishnah 13, that siag l'chachma shtika, a way to become wise is to be quiet. You learn more by listening. A wise person doesn't interrupt his friend. A wise person waits until his friend is done speaking, and then he answers him based on what he said. It's a good character trait. Right? It's not a good character trait to interrupt others when they're speaking. And the golem doesn't do this. A golem answers things as soon as he hears it. A wise person isn't in a rush to answer. Say somebody's asking you a question. Somebody's asking the wise person a question. The wise person doesn't rush to answer him right away, but rather he waits and he listens to everything the person has to say and all of the person's arguments. And then he thinks about them well. He doesn't rush to answer the person until the answer is clear like the sun. This is the way of wisdom. This is the way of wisdom. Because by doing this, his answer will be correct. He asks about the topic and then he answers correctly. If he wants to ask for a reason of something, he only asks relevant questions that are he asks very pointed, relevant questions to the topic at hand. And if they ask him questions, he answers correctly. I think people who spend a long time learning Torah, teaches all this as an aside. Rabeinu Yonah is not saying this. I'm just adding that I think people that study Gemara a lot, they learn their mind learns how to think to really ask appropriate questions to get to the crux of the issue. It's another benefit of Talmud study. And they learn to not ask irrelevant questions. In the Beis Medrash, when you get to a certain point of learning, if you ask irrelevant questions, people will have no patience for you. I mean, they'll be polite about it, but they'll have no patience. He answers the first question first and the last question last. Now, this doesn't mean that you answer the first question first and the last question last. Rather, it means sometimes a person can ask you two questions, and by clarifying question two, that will actually help you answer question one. That's why it's called first. So sometimes when you listen to a list of a person's questions, you could understand from, let's say, the fourth question that it'll help answer the previous questions. So a wise person will use his other questions to answer the previous questions. And a person who's not wise, doesn't think about all this. He doesn't know all these techniques. And now, a wise person, if he never heard the answer, let's say someone asks you a question and he never heard the answer, a wise person says he never heard it before. If he never heard something from his rabbi, he says, I never heard this from my rabbis. However, if he has his own logic of what an answer should be. Sometimes someone can ask you a question and you never heard it explicitly from your rabbis, but you have a logical answer of what it should be. So you should say, but this is what it appears to me. And this is good character traits, which the golem doesn't have. The wise person admits when he's wrong. Sometimes you can have a wise person and he's arguing with someone who's not so wise. And the person that you're arguing with is not so smart, and you could clearly outsmart him with your debate topic, with your debate points. But you know your friend's right. So he says, even if in that particular point you could disprove your friend, who's less wise than you, a wise person, even if the friend is less wise, won't try to beat his friend in an argument if he knows his friend is correct. He'll admit to him. So you're arguing with someone who's not as smart as you, and you know a very sneaky way, an intelligent way to disprove his point, but you know in the end he's right. So the wise person admits that his friend was right. He doesn't care about winning. A wise person doesn't care about winning an argument. It's right. It's better for him, the wise person, to get to the truth than to win an argument. The golem doesn't think like this. If he's ever beaten in a debate, it's embarrassing for him. It's like degrading for him. The opposite of these traits are with the golem. The unwise person makes a mistake in all these 7 things we mentioned. Because he doesn't have complete wisdom yet. So we learned, again, the 7 things that characterize a wise person. He doesn't speak in front of someone, he doesn't speak before someone who's smarter and older and wiser than him. He doesn't interrupt his friend. He doesn't rush to answer a question. He asks pointed questions and answers appropriately. He answers the first thing first and the second and the last thing last. And that we explained was that if the second question could help interpret the first question. And then we said also that a wise person, if he never heard something, he says, I never heard this before, or he doesn't know, and he also admits when he's wrong. All of these are characteristics of a wise person, and something we should all strive for. Wishing everyone a great day.